Any other questions?
Okay, I mean, also the description says that we will get a fixed return. Is it there are some mutual funds they will assure a fixed rate of return for after the maturity period?
Yeah, so again, mutual fund by definition will not assure you a fixed return, but just like we discussed, right, fixed income versus equity, fixed income is generally much less risk and much more guaranteed return. So a money market fund from a mutual fund usually generates 5 to 6% per year. I'm talking from an Indian context. From a US context today, it would be maybe 1 or 2% because the interest rates are so low. Fixed income fund would generate maybe 7 to 8% because the tenure is slightly higher, the interest rate tend to be slightly higher. From a US perspective, it could be maybe 2.5 or 2 to 3%, something like that. But again, it is not guaranteed because we have seen some of the mutual fund which invest in fixed income also have a bad time because they bought something and that person defaulted. So basically, in fixed income, what is that mutual fund doing? They are buying bonds from someone. And if that person defaults, then obviously the mutual fund company does not have money to pay to the investors.
So you mean here there is nothing like a guaranteed fund, but it's more again a kind of a risk is there in even in mutual funds.
Yeah, correct, right? Risk is obviously there, right? So whatever we discussed, market risk always exists, right? So, but in money market fund, I would say the risk is very, very low. So in India, if you invest in a money market fund, they most of the time they will give you 4 to 5% return. That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, so if we are talking about risk, so if you don't want risk, then FD is that is the best option instead of going with this. Um, so we will not no we don't have to worry much with if you go with fixed deposit, but you will have less interest. But here we are
Yeah,
going to take some risk.
so
Yeah.
if you ask me personally, money market mutual fund versus FD, I would say go for FD with a good nationalized bank like SBI, where you know that the chances of default are extremely low because anything happens, the government of India will anyways bail them out. As of today, at least, I think SBI is owned 50% plus by government of India. I don't know the exact percentage, but yes. So compared to both money market mutual fund and fixed income funds, FD would be a safer option for India.
And Nishant, what about the inflation rate here? I mean, if we like get into a mutual fund, then how do we understand the how do we consider the inflation rate based on the fixed income? For example, if the fixed income fund is for 3 4 years, then we also need to consider, because if the money is growing, then eventually the money's worth will also decrease. So how do we do that?
No, I did not understand your question. In inflation, what can you do about inflation? Inflation
Yeah.
is anyways not in your hand, right?
True, but still, I mean, if we are informed investors, we would be able to understand as to what is the rate of. I mean, how can we consider? Eventually, there are some metrics that inform us that okay, this is the projected inflation rate or something like that. So, can we consider that and consider our investments based on that, or should we just ignore that and just go with the simplistic definitions?
No, no. So you should always consider inflation, but projecting for the future is always difficult. But if you look at for India example, even RBI's target is to keep inflation between 4 and 6%. But now what every central bank in the world is saying is that in case in 2019 the inflation was below 4%, which means the target was not achieved. So in 2020 they are okay if it goes to 7%. So that way predicting inflation for future is tough, but if you ask me for India, I would say the inflation would range between 6 and 9% for the next 2 3 years. So anyways, your fixed income funds and your money market funds will not be able to beat inflation. But there is a category of investor, right, who is very safe playing. So this product is for them, if that was your question. Otherwise, definitely for people like you, if you are an informed investor, why would you even go for a mutual fund? You would rather manage your own money, right? Because in a mutual fund, anyways, you will have to pay some charges to the fund manager.
True, true.
Actually, here Vaibhav brought kind of a new topic, which somehow I was able to link. I was kind of an interviewing with, for my Indian office, and I was in a surprise that whatever the take which they were taking now, and whatever we were getting earlier in 5 or 6 years is really huge actually. So it's a kind of an inflation rate is actually kind of an change, or what, I don't know what are the reasons which has changed. I felt one of the reason could be inflation rate. Maybe we
Yeah,
can
I think.
add inflation to our agenda if Nishant is able to take this also topic.
Yeah, sure, but inflation we have spoken about many times, right? So we keep discussing economic policies. But fine, we can talk more about it, definitely. If there are any specific
Actually,
things.
Vibo also had a point. For example, if you are investing now some 20 euros or 30 euros, if it is maturing after 5 years, so if the inflation would have increased at that point, it doesn't, and whatever the returns which you are getting, it doesn't sink actually.
Correct, right? So there is a concept called nominal rate of return and real rate of return. So for example, for the next 5 years, say, let's take a simple example. My actual growth in my portfolio is 10% per year, but out of which 8% was inflation. So my real growth is only 2%. So that is how you calculate it. So basically right now, if I invest 20 at 10% CAGR, after 5 years, I will probably have 33. But also because of inflation, the price of everything has gone up. So what is 20 rupees today is actually 28 5 years from now. So my actual gain is 33 minus 28, only 5.
Yeah, maybe we can, if you have more details, we can conduct a separate session on this whenever you have time.
Sure, we can do that. Fine. Okay. So the first two is clear for everyone. What are fixed income funds and money market funds? And then probably to give you more context, so money market funds are for people. See, money market funds are for people either who are very safe. So say you're already 80 years old and you have 10 million lying around. You don't want to keep 10 million in your house because you have theft and all that risk. So you put it in a money market fund and you kind of keep churning it around because you really don't want to check it out and all. Just that whatever return comes, so in 10 million, even if say it is generating 2% per year for you, 10 millions, 1% is 100,000. So 2% is $200,000. That's enough for you, right? To live on that, and your capital is preserved. And say this 2% is net of taxes. So these kind of people will be happy to invest in money market funds.
But Nishant, here it's in India. It's called debt fund, right? In general, if you go practically to invest with any, for example, HDFC mutual fund, then there they will call it as what is the name they are calling it as?
They call it money market fund only. So under the fixed income umbrella, you will have money market fund and fixed income fund. So in India, they will call it short term, long term, like that. So your money market fund will be short term. I can give you one example, maybe. You have it. They call it HDFC money market fund. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
You can see the new browser that I opened.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is what they call it. HDFC money market fund. Scheme type money market fund. The scheme invests in money market instrument with a maturity of up to 1 year. It will invest in commercial paper, certificate of deposit, commercial bill, treasury bill, government securities, having an unexpired maturity of less than 1 year. So there might be some Government of India bond which was issued 10 years ago, but now the maturity is in 2020 or January 2021. So that is less than 1 year only. So they can invest in that. Got it?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So then the third one is equity. So these funds primarily invest in equities. Okay. Again, in equities, you have 4 categories of funds. Are you guys listening?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, in equities, you have 4 categories. One is large cap. Cap here means market capitalization. So basically, companies which have a market capitalization above a certain threshold. So for example sake, I'm saying 10,000 crores from an India perspective. So any company which has a market value of 10,000 crores and above, the large cap fund will focus on that. And generally nowadays what the fund manager will do is, if you look at the fine print, they will have some kind of leeway there, that in large cap they will invest 80% and then maybe 5% they can invest in mid cap also. But by and large, when it is a large cap fund, it is expected to invest 90 to 95% in the large cap fund and 5% keep as cash, because every mutual fund keeps some amount of cash because redemption can happen. So like for example, a fund has 100 crores. Every month they may be getting new investors of 5 crores, but redemption may also be happening. So they always need to keep some liquidity, because some month extra redemption may happen. It may not always be even. So in, say the fund is worth, it is September today, so the fund is worth 100 crores, but in October 10 crore redemption may happen and no new money may come. So they always want to keep some cash, because otherwise if they have some positions, they may have to cut at a loss. That also can happen if there is more redemption pressure, because as per the mutual fund rule, if you want your money back, they have to give it to you in 2 or 3 days.
So
So
you mean this without a maturity, the investor could decide to exit, then this situation will come, right?
correct. So in mutual fund, you always can exit anytime. Okay, so we were talking about types of funds in terms of asset classes. So let's also talk about mutual funds category in terms of exit entry. So there are 2 kinds of mutual fund. One is open-ended mutual fund, one is closed-ended mutual fund. Closed-ended mutual fund is like your FD with a fixed tenure, 2 year, 3 year, like that. So in closed-ended mutual funds, there is only one time entry. So say the fund will say that I am open for investment from 1st October till 31st October. Whatever money is collected in that time then gets locked in for 3 years. And the redemption can only happen after 3 years, or automatically after 3 years they will redeem everyone along with the profits. That is a close-ended fund. But the majority of the funds in the market are open-ended, which means as an investor you can enter anytime, exit anytime, just like you can buy a share anytime and exit anytime, same thing. Got it?
So if a new investor enters in middle, so again they will purchase, or there will be a kind of an exit person will be there, so they will substitute it. Just curious.
No. So how it happens from a mutual fund perspective is, you are never buying and selling to someone else in an open-ended mutual fund. It is always the fund company. So say I am the fund company. I started the fund in January 2015 and I collected 100 crores. So what I do is, I will issue units at the rate of 10 rupees generally. And every day, based on the profit or loss, an NAV is calculated, which is known as net asset value, NAV. Okay. So say for example, January 2015, I started the fund. I collected 100 crores and it was an equity fund. I made the investments, and then in February, so it is done on a daily basis. So say after 15 days, yeah, so on 15th of February, the value of my investment is 102 crore. So now, initially I had issued at 10 rupees per unit. So I had issued 10 crore units. So now I will divide 102 crore by 10 crore and my NAV will be 10.2. So any new investor that is coming in will give me 10.2 for every unit I give him. And similarly, any old investor who's exiting will get 10.2. So he invested at 10, now it is at 10.2. So that's a 2% gain for them.
Yeah, got it. So in the sense, the person who is entering will be paying the higher price than the one it started,
It can be higher or
rather than
lower,
at the
right?
one.
It can be higher
Yeah,
or lower.
that depends.
In this case, I
Yeah.
assume that fund made a profit. If the fund made a loss, the NAV could be 9.9 also.
Yeah.
And then most of the mutual funds, again from an Indian context, I would say even in the global context, it will probably be the same, have two options. One is a dividend option, one is a growth option. In dividend option, what they will do is whatever profit they generate in a year, at least 50 to 60% of it, they will pay it out in the form of dividends. In a growth fund, they will never pay dividend. They will keep adding it. Your money just keeps growing.
Okay, so you were talking about NAV, net asset value. So this component will be always keeping on fluctuating, and this will be available to this will be known to all the investors
Correct.
at any
At
point of time.
not any point of time. Unlike the shares, these are not published in real time. They are only published once in a day, end of day.
Okay.
Okay. So the third type of fund is equity fund, where the investor has collected money from you and going to invest in equities. In equities, there are four. So one is large cap. So say above 10,000 crores. So only invest in companies where market cap is more than 10,000 crores. So which means from an Indian context, if BSE has 3,800 listed companies, large cap will only be 50. So only in that 50 they will be trading. The other one is mid cap, which will be focused on companies which have a market cap of 5,000 to 10,000 crores. The third one is small cap, which is 1,000 to 5,000 crores. And the fourth one is multi cap, which will invest in a combination of large cap, mid cap and small cap. Clear?
Yeah.
It is explained here in the last line as well. Large cap, mid cap, small cap or combination. Okay. Next one is balanced fund. So in balanced fund, what will happen is they will invest 50% in equity, 50% in debt. Okay, or it can be 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, 40-60, which means 40 for equity, 60 for fixed income, like that. Clear?
Yeah.
Fifth one is index fund. Here they will only invest in the index stocks, which means if you are buying an index fund in India and it is Nifty index fund, it will only invest in the Nifty stocks. So whatever company is not part of the Nifty, this fund will not invest in that.
Does index fund also mean that it mirrors the performance of the index?
Yes, it does. Yes. Okay. That is why you see, so there was a lot of news for Tesla getting added to the S&P, and that was leading to a lot of rally in Tesla shares. Because when it is part of an index, there are a lot of such index funds in the market. And say if the index fund control 2 lakh crores, hypothetically I'm talking from an Indian perspective, or say US perspective, if the index funds in US control $1 trillion, and if Tesla were to get added to the index, all of these index funds will be forced to buy Tesla, which would mean an additional, say if Tesla has only 1% weight in the index, that would mean out of 1 trillion, 1%, which means roughly $10 billion of additional Tesla shares will be bought. Make sense? Is this clear to everyone?
Can you please repeat that, please?
Once again, please.
Yes, please. Can you repeat?
Okay, Tesla shares were rallying a lot because it was assumed that Tesla may be added to the S&P 500. Now S&P
Added,
sorry?
they added in fact, they added also.
No, they didn't add, na?
No, they are, it's a part of S&P 500.
No, I think it did not get added. That is why it fell, na?
No, not because of it.
Yes, yeah. You can see the article. Is my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, here it is written, right? Shares of Tesla shrank more than 6% after Etsy, Teradyne, and Catalent were added to the S&P 500 index, but not Elon Musk electric car maker.
Hmm.
Tesla was seen as a candidate for inclusion after reporting its fourth straight profitable quarter. S&P 500 added Etsy and two others. Okay, so let me explain in simple words. You guys understood what an index fund is, right? So in the US, index funds have a lot of money, say $1 trillion. Now in S&P 500, each company has a weightage. Say for example, Apple has a weightage of 10% in S&P 500. So any index fund which tracks S&P 500 has to invest 10% of its total investable amount in Apple shares. Clear?
Okay, the similar way to a Nifty 50, right? And Nifty, I think, and 50 companies are there under Nifty, right?
Exactly. In Nifty 50, there are 50 companies. So will Nifty 50 be easier example? Okay, so let's assume Nifty 50.
Yeah,
So
please.
any index fund which wants to invest in Nifty 50 has to go in the proportion of the weightage of Nifty 50. Now say there is a total of 50,000 crores available to invest in the Nifty index funds, or there are so many index funds and they have total of 50,000 crores. Now they are mandated to invest only in Nifty 50 companies. Now say the weightage of Reliance in Nifty 50 is 10%. Actually it is higher, but I'm just giving an example. Which means out of the 50,000 crores which is available to be invested in the Nifty 50 fund, Nifty index funds, 5,000 crores has to be mandatorily invested in Reliance. Clear? Clear, not clear?
It's clear, Nishant, for me.
For everyone?
Yeah, can you explain that? How is the weightage decided? That is based on the market capital, or what? How is it?
Ha, Vaibhav. So now you are going to something else. Yeah, that is based on market cap only. So that is for some
Okay.
other discussion. Right now, focus on the concept that I'm trying to understand.
Okay, but okay,
Explain.
here if the share, for example, here if the particular company's Nifty 50's company share is doing good, then when they try to invest the 10%, example in Reliance, then their price will again the demand will be more for that company, right? Then the share price will go up.
No, no, share price is anyways a function of demand and supply. But anyways, don't go into all that. Right now, try to understand. Now, Reliance has a high weightage and it is among the top Nifty stocks. But there might be a stock which is at number 50. So in terms of weightage, okay, let me show you. It will be easier, I guess. Can you see my screen, all of you?
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you see on number 50, Bharti is there with a weightage of only 0.35%, which means out of 1 lakh crore, only 350 crore needs to be invested in Bharti Airtel. 1 lakh crore is the total hypothetical amount available with all the index funds. Clear, not clear?
Yeah, got it. Mhm.
Now say Bharti Infratel is removed from the Nifty. So now all these index funds have to sell Bharti Infratel. So that 350 crore worth of stock that they were holding becomes supply in the market. And generally that is why the price of Bharti Infratel will fall the moment it is declared that it is going to be removed from Nifty. And in replacement of Bharti Infratel, say ABC is getting added, it will have the same weightage of 0.35. Now this ABC, because it has the same weightage, these firms will sell Bharti Infratel and buy ABC, which will mean an extra demand for ABC Limited of 350 crore worth. Now this is dependent on how much these index funds have. If they have 1 lakh crore, it is 350 crores. If they have 10 lakh crores, it is 3,500 crores. Got it now?
Yeah.
Clear for everyone?
Yeah.
And that this was one of the reasons that was driving Tesla's rally, because there was a very big news that it will get added to S&P. So when it did not get added, all these people who were expecting that the extra demand will come from the index funds, all that market evaporated, because obviously index funds are no more mandated to buy Tesla. And as they are no more mandated, they won't buy, because they cannot buy anything which is other than S&P 500, because they are not allowed to do it. And these index funds control huge chunk of money. I can show you that data also. So that is why anytime a company is getting added to an index, it's considered a positive, and anytime a company is getting removed from an index, it is considered a negative. And Vaibhav, to answer your question, how does Nifty calculate its index weights? It is definitely based on the market cap. So whichever company has the highest market cap, you remember we discussed Nifty is calculated based on free float market cap. So the way it is calculated is, what is the free float market cap of Reliance? So say if it is say 8 lakh crores, and the free float market cap of HDFC Bank is 6 lakh crores. The total free float market cap of Nifty is 80 lakh crores. So 8 lakh divided by 80 lakh gives 10% weightage to Reliance. 6 lakh divided by 80 lakhs gives whatever weightage to HDFC Bank, so on and so forth. So basically first free float market cap is calculated for each of these companies, and that is done on August closing. So they have probably taken the August closing price and updated on 1st September. And any company, so for example, the ones which are at 50.49 are always at risk, because the moment some company crosses Bharti Infratel in free float market cap, again remember the keyword is free float. So there might be companies which have higher market cap than in Bharti Infratel. So say Bharti Infratel market cap is 10,000 crores. There might be a company which has a market cap of 30,000 crores, but their free float is only 10%. So your free float market cap is 10% of 30,000 crores, which is only 3,000 crores. Whereas for Bharti Infratel, the market cap is 10,000 crores, but free float is 60%. So free float market cap is 66,000 crores. Got it?
Yeah, got it now. So that means that, for example, Infosys, it must be having like a large free market share, isn't it? Because like most of the shares are already in public.
Yeah. Infosys has a very large free float, right? As I said, hardly any share of Infosys is considered as promoter shareholding, maybe less than 10%. So we can check that also. Guys, if there are any other questions. see here, you can see. See, sometimes getting data is painful, but here this is good. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
So here if you see, this is from a time when TCS was largest market cap. So for your information, TCS was the largest market cap company in India for a long time. Now Reliance is number one, but TCS was number one. So when TCS was number one in market cap, when I say market cap, total market cap, it was still number 8 in free float market cap. Okay, even now if you see, TCS is number 6. Okay, so this article is explaining why. Because TCS is owned by the Tata Sons Group. So whatever share of percentage of shares in TCS is owned by Tata Group, that is not known as promoter shareholding.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's removed from the free float, right? That's total market cap minus the shares of the promoters.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So yeah, so you can look at it that way, or just you basically to calculate free float market cap, what you do is you take the non-promoter shareholding and multiply that with the total market cap. So if the total market cap is 1 lakh crores and non-promoter shareholding is 20%, my free float market cap is nothing but 1 lakh crore into 20%, which is 20,000 crores. Or you can do it the other way, calculate the promoter share and then subtract it, whichever works. So TCS.
Here, one question here, Nishant. So here, you said right that around 75% is the minimum should be in free float or something, right? Or
yes, but that is not correct. No, 75% is not the free float. Free float should be 25%, more than 25%. Promoter shareholding should be less than 75. So free float should only be 25%, which is stupid actually. SEBI should make it more. So in the US, so there was one data me and Ranjit were discussing some time back, maybe 2 months back. I don't know if Ranjit remembers it, where the free float in the US is much higher than in India. But anyways, we'll come to that. So right now let's focus on this article. So here it is saying that TCS, although is the most valuable company in India, it is the number 8 in free float. Why? Because the high shareholding of Tata Sun. So 28% of TCS was owned, 78%, 72% of TCS was owned by Tata Sons. This is 2018. It might have changed now. And as per SEBI, maximum is 75. So they were just below 75. Got it?
Yeah.
Whereas if you go down, Infosys has a market cap which is 40% of TCS, which means if TCS market cap was 1 lakh crore, Infosys market cap was only 40,000 crore. But even with 40,000 crore, it has a higher free float. So like I just explained in my example. So TCS with a 1 lakh crore market cap but 28% non-promoter shareholding, free float market cap is 28,000 crores. Got it? Infosys with a market cap of only 40,000 crores but 90% free float is worth 36,000 as free float market cap. So free float market cap of Infosys is higher than TCS, and because of that it gets a higher weight in Nifty. This was 2018, even now it's the same. And this is one of the reasons Infosys has always, initially it used to have a higher valuation also, because it had a higher weight in all these indexes. So you see the correlation.
Yeah.
Any questions now? If
So
you
can
have not,
promoters buy the shares in the public market, like to decrease the free float, or can they sell the shares to increase the free float?
yes.
Okay.
So as I explained, again, the promoters. So for example, Tata Group can, if they want to buy more of TCS and they have the money, they can go ahead and buy, but provided they do not cross the maximum of 75%.
75%, yeah.
Selling is always allowed. After the IPO, there is some restriction, and there is restriction in terms of when the quarterly results are to be published and all. Other than that, they can sell anytime. So I believe TCS IPO was 15 years ago, 2005. So now that IPO rule does not apply. So the only thing is there is something called a quiet period, which means just about when the financial results are about to be published, they cannot sell. So for example, for this quarter, the quiet period may be after 30th September till the quarterly results are published. I don't know when they apply, so we can check that. So once that period is over, so say if TCS publishes its quarter 2 results on 20th of October, from 21st of October, they will be allowed to sell. Because once they publish the quarterly results, all the information is public. So from 21st, nobody has additional information because it is assumed that TCS is transparent and they have told the investors everything.
Here, investor, share, you said, right, the maximum 75. Is there any minimum?
Sorry?
The maximum cap is 75%, right? You said. Is there any minimum, or but generally they want to maintain 50 or to have major hold, right?
No,
Generally
no.
they will not.
So for promoter shareholding, what is the minimum? 0, means 0.1%. Even 1 share you can hold as a promoter.
Okay.
Promoter is basically somebody who started the company. Later on, he can sell and get out. That is what I keep saying, right? Like today, if Narayan Murthy wants to sell all his shares of Infosys, nobody can stop him. Provided he does it. Now, though, he has also relinquished most of the posts. I think because he is considered a promoter, he will have restrictions. But say after Infosys result is published for October, this quarter, say 20th of October or whatever. So that is what me and Ranjit were discussing. Generally, Infosys publishes before 15 days of quarter end. So if quarter ends on 30th September, before 15th of October, they will publish the quarterly result. So say assuming for this quarter they publish on 15th of October, from 16th of October, Mr. Narayan Murthy is free to sell all his shares. 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, he can sell and get out. But he is not selling because he is probably seeing growth in Infosys still. Although he has sold a lot and invested in other companies.
Okay,
Or he may just get bored and just take all his money, put it in bank and enjoy his retirement, whatever. But I think with the amount of shares he holds, dividend is enough for him, for his monthly expense. Clear? Questions? No? Okay, good. So we covered large, mid, multi-cap, small cap, index funds we covered. The sixth one is specialty funds. So these funds can be focused on real estate, commodities, or other socially responsible investing. So today there is a word going around a lot called ESG. Have you guys heard of the word ESG?
This environment stuff, right? Something like the
So it is.
ITC has some problem. ESG, I heard.
ITC is tobacco, right? So anyways. So it is known as environmental, social and governance things. So like I keep talking about Norway, right? So there is this fund called Norges, Norway Pension Fund. So they are very much into this ESG. So they do not want to invest in companies that pollute the environment and all that. And these guys have a lot of money. It was more than $1 trillion. So I would encourage all of you guys to go through this link, nbim.no. I will share it. I think I already shared this, but yeah. So 100,000 million billion trillion. This fund is worth 10 trillion Norwegian kronos. What is that Norwegian oil company? It is, I think, Statoil, right? Who's in Norway? No one. So yeah. So basically this is what it is. But generally, if you invest mutual fund focused on real estate, we call it REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust. So we call it different name. But there can be mutual fund which are focused on commodities. So either buying iron ore or gold or silver. So you could have mutual funds like that. So which you would call gold fund or whatever. And the last one is fund of fund. So these funds then go ahead and invest in other funds. So basically I will give money to this fund and then they will decide which fund to put my money into. So they will buy 100 units of HDFC mutual fund, equity fund. They will buy 200 units of ICICI Prudential small cap fund, like that. So these are funds which invest in other mutual funds. Okay. So these are the 7 types of mutual funds in terms of one criteria. There are other ways we can have. So
Nishant, is there any funds like for startups, like the companies which you go and invest in? There is some funds for startups.
yes, it is there. Na? That is what we call venture capital and all, angel funds and all that. So they are not part of mutual funds.
So today, if I want to buy some stock, for example, I will be able to know which are the companies which are the funds invested and which kind of funds it's available. Like for example, I want to invest in some of the ETFs, which only fund the startups.
No, ETFs and all do not fund startups, right? That is what I'm saying. These are all to protect the
No,
retail investor. These are all funds which invest in listed stocks only. If you want to get into that kind of category, you need to have more money, be it your private equity fund, your angel fund, your seed fund, and all of that. So I will come to that, right? So as I said, one by one. If you jump the gun, it will be confusing. So
Here
again,
you brought a one point. You said the mutual funds will be only investing in listed companies. So is there an option that they will also invest in non-listed companies also?
very, very rarely. Generally, it is not allowed. On the top of my mind, I don't have any example. It is extremely unlikely because it is assumed that people who are investing in mutual funds have very limited knowledge, and that is why in order to protect them, mutual funds have to very strictly follow what they have written in their offer document, and ideally that offer document should be crystal clear. But as I said, these days people use some ambiguous language to get away with certain things. So there could be a mutual fund which will say they will invest primarily in large cap stocks, but they will keep the percentage as more than 65% only. So rest of the money they keep as cash, which is not good, right? Because if I am an investor and I have given it to a mutual fund, I want them to deploy maximum of my money to generate returns. If they are keeping it in cash, obviously they are generating lesser return for me.
So how this mutual SEBI will be regulating them again?
Yeah, they are highly regulated. Mutual funds are very highly regulated. Discussed about open-ended and close-ended funds. So open-ended fund, which means investor can come at any time, go at any time. Close-ended fund means you can come only at specific time, go after only the lock-in. We also discussed equity or growth scheme. Equity means dividend. You will pay dividends or you will keep reinvesting the money and pay no dividends. The next one is sector specific fund. So this one we did not discuss. So sector specific fund means there are two kind of fund. Either it is diversified or sector specific. When I say sector specific, there could be a mutual fund which will say it will only invest in large cap stocks belonging to the banking sector. So it has two conditions. It is only investing in large cap and only from banking sector. So it will not invest in telecom, IT, nothing, only focused on banking. If it says it is diversified, which means it will invest in banking, telecom, IT, etc. Got it? Guys,
Yep.
clear? Questions? No? Okay, good. Then we already discussed index funds. And then there is a third category specific to India, which we call it as equity linked saving scheme or tax saving fund. In order to encourage the retail investor to invest in the stock market, the government of India has come up with this scheme where if you invest in certain types of mutual funds, which are known as equity linked saving schemes, with a lock-in of 3 years, in India there is a lock-in of 3 years, you will get tax saving. That is considered as part of your ATC. So this is also a good way to raise money. I would say ELSS schemes have about 2 lakh crores or something like that. That's a good amount of money that has been raised. And it has made a lot of people forcefully invest into equities. Like we keep discussing, right? India is not a risk-taking country. And that is why I strongly believe that interest rate need to go to zero. Because with interest rate at zero, people will be forced to invest in equity. Because right now in India, there is a lot of inefficient allocation of capital. People are sitting on gold and doing nothing with it. And that is not at all a good use of the money. And in fact, we keep importing gold. So currently we do not produce enough gold to meet the demand. Every year we are importing tons of gold, 100 tons, 500 tons. I don't have the numbers, but I think monthly import is 10 or 20 tons of gold, which is around 200 tons of gold we are importing from other countries. And there is no need to do it. Because at the end of the day, only when you produce something, you can either sell it in the domestic market or globally. Questions, guys?
No, thanks.
I think we could discuss most of the others. If there is anything else, we can continue tomorrow. I'm tired of speaking so much. So now I will take questions. Any questions? I'm open for questions. What all we discussed today or anything else from previous classes if something came to the mind. But I would encourage all of you to go through NBIM. So I have kind of covered everything about mutual funds. If you guys have any questions, ask. So tomorrow I will try to cover which one do you guys want? Hedge funds, sovereign wealth funds, private equity funds? Which one is the interest to most of you?
Actually, today is already Sunday. So next week, you mean it will be Nimit taking the Bitcoins, or you will be still continuing with the mutual fund?
So next week, yeah, if Nimit is available next Saturday, Sunday, he can do Bitcoin, blockchain, and whatever else he wants to cover. And then week after I can do. And anyways, we have some presentations left. But I'm saying, yeah, next time when I talk, which topic shall I pick up? Shall I pick up hedge funds, private equity funds, angel funds, venture capital funds, seed funds, growth funds? I think many of them are interrelated in some way, but yeah, I can pick up whichever interests you guys. No preferences?
Maybe we can of the things and we can post it on the group. People can go through them once, like just to have like a small idea, and then they can speak about it. Or if not, then you can always decide for yourself.
Yeah, fine. The reason I threw around this word is because people might have heard and they might be curious to know. Okay, somebody might be curious. Okay, I want to know what is a hedge fund. Somebody might be curious.
A hedge fund, but yeah, we can put it for this on the group and see what people prefer. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Yeah, so no, we'll do hedge funds. No worries. Any other questions, guys? I have some time. If you guys have questions.
Actually, I have a kind of a basic question. Yes, this is kind of a follow-up, we can say. Yesterday, Ranjit was talking about the listing price for an IPO. Once it is listed, how it will be decided. So you were telling that whatever the initial, whatever the buy price at that time, the person purchased initially, that will be the price which will be listed. So just want to understand, is there some, I mean, I know there will be some algorithm. Will this algorithm will be available for anyone else to check? Like how this price will be fixed? For example, how the price, supply and demand prices will be fixed. For example, if the Reliance, let's take Happiest Mind, for example, now it is 351. Tomorrow it will be 400. So there is a demand. That's why the price is going up. So how much demand will make it from 350 to 400?
No. So I did not understand your algorithm question. But demand, see, as I said, right, in India, SEBI controls it by allowing only a 10% upper freeze. And only if that company is traded in the FNO segment, after 15 minutes, the freeze is removed. Okay. Now, say, for example, Vodafone Idea has a 10% limit. But then if Vodafone Idea during the course of the day's trading hits an upper limit, it freezes only for 15 minutes. After that, again the trading starts. So there is no such algorithm or anything, Srihari. For Happiest Mind, what will happen is on Monday, say a lot of people want to buy the shares. Okay. So I have already bought it and I am holding it, and say I bought it at 350 bucks and I feel that if I sell it at 380, I'll be happy. So I will put my sell order at 380 on Monday morning, or I can put it now also. It is known as after market hours. So before even Monday opens, my order will be there. So the way the queuing happens in the Nifty is FIFO, first in, first out. So if I place my order now at 9:08, automatically it will be sent to the exchange. And mine will be one of the first few orders because I have placed it before the market even opened. And every broker has certain rules beyond, in that time only you can place the AMO. So I don't know what is for Zerodha, but there are certain rules. So if I try to place now, it will show me in a pop-up saying this is not the correct window, you need to place after so and so time or whatever. Or you can place it. If I can place it, it will get placed. The moment the market opens at 9:15, my order will be there. So it will not mention my name, but it will show that somebody X person wants to sell 1000 shares at 385 rupees. Now, if there is another party on the other side who wants to buy at 385, trade will happen. If there is no one ready to buy at 385, trade will not happen. That's it. So there is no algorithm here. It is simple demand and supply.
Okay, so you mean if the party is ready to purchase at that price, you can still go. The stock price will be still at that high price. But I mean, I understand that. But for example, if will that be fixed for other parties also? I mean, in general, the stock price will be high, right? If another person is able to purchase at a higher price, so
No. Again, the stock price is never fixed, right? It is based on supply and demand. So say I am ready to sell at 380, but say Ranjit is ready to sell at 370. Vaibhav is ready to sell at 360. So obviously whoever is selling at the lowest, you will buy from him, right? So it depends.
So you mean once the market is open, if any person can sell at high price or even at low price also?
Exactly. There is something called, so do you understand the concept of limit order?
No, I never checked this.
Okay, so you should read about limit order. I will give you the link. Read about it and come back next class with your questions. Or Ranjit can explain. Ranjit is a experienced trader, so he should be able to explain you what a limit order is. But in the very simple word,
more about these things, because I tried once or twice with Zerodha, but I'm getting confused a lot with like all their terminologies.
so ask na, who's stopping you from asking?
Limit is nothing but at what price you want to strike the deal.
Okay, I'm giving you one link, but in simple words, right? Limit order means, okay, let me explain. Let me open Happiest Mind and explain with the data. So Happiest Mind closed at 360 rupees on Monday, okay, on Friday. Let me share my screen and explain. Can you see my screen?
No.
Okay, I need to share it. Can you see it now?
Yeah, you see it.
Okay. So here, Happiest Minds closed at 358.70. For easy explanation, I'm making it 360. Clear?
Okay.
Okay. As per SEBI guideline, Happiest Mind has a upper and lower freeze of 10%. which means its price can fluctuate between 360 plus 10%, which is 396, and 360 minus 10%, which is 324. So for Monday, the trading range is 324 to 396. Clear?
So you mean the price will not go with, I mean, if it hit 10%, that is the maximum price it can go per day.
For Happiest Mind technology. And I don't think so it is part of FNO, so yes. If it hits 396, trading will stop. If it hits 324, trading will stop for that day. Tuesday, again, it will open for trading.
Based on
Why?
the previous
Why like
closing value, right? The 10% is based on previous day value, right?
It is based on the closing price of previous trading session. So Monday's range is decided based on Friday's closing price. Tuesday's range is decided on Monday's closing price.
I just want to understand why is that like that?
In order to protect the investor. So say if SEBI does not put that 10% and the price falls by 50% in one day, obviously it is bad for investor, right? So in order to protect the retail investor, and SEBI assumes that the Indian investor is not very smart. So in order to protect, they have put this. In fact, for many companies, it's a 5% freeze. For some companies, it's a 10% freeze.
Nishant, I don't like the word protect, man. I think you are making out this protect, or yeah, SEBI told that it's to protect the retail investors. I don't think so. It's a protecting agenda is behind that. They did it. Maybe they don't want to pay out the if suddenly some because they, in order to control volatility, they did it. But it doesn't mean that they want to save with retail investors.
Arey, so boss, less volatility, it is good, right? Do you want a share price to fall 50% in a day or grow 50% in a day? Why do you want that? Are you creating a gambling market, or you are creating a market for efficient utilization of capital? This is not Las Vegas, na Ranjit Babu. Ki you go roll a dice and make millionaire in a day.
Right? I think it will cost fee. That's the reason they want to reduce it, I think.
But anyways, so yeah, I believe it is for protection. Less volatility is good, right? You don't want crazy volatility. You don't want to make it roll a dice. But anyways, yeah. So did I answer your question, Srihari?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Now between 324 and 396, it is allowed to fluctuate freely, which is still a very big range, right? Now there are two examples. Okay, and listen carefully. I am somebody who has already bought Happiest Mind shares. I have 1 lakh shares. Clear? I bought it in Thursday, Friday, Monday, whatever. Over many days I have bought, or whatever. That doesn't matter to you. I have 1 lakh shares. And my average price per share is 200 rupees. So I'm already sitting on a lot of profit. Clear, not clear, the scenario?
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Now I decide that on Monday, I'll be happy to sell 10,000 of my shares. I have 1 lakh, but I want to sell only 10,000. I'll be happy to sell 10,000 of my shares at 380 rupees. So what I can do is either before the market opens or after the market opens, I can put a sell order for 10,000 shares at 380 rupees. Clear?
Okay.
Clear or not clear?
No, got it.
Clear for everyone? Now, if there is demand for 10,000 shares at 380 rupees, my shares will get sold on Monday. If there is no demand, which means people are not ready to buy at 380, they feel it is overpriced, they will not buy. So my trade will not happen and I will be left with my shares. If I am very, very sure that I have to sell at whatever price is available on Monday, then I will do a market order. So the market price may be 355. So I will sell at 355. So that is the difference between market order and limit order. In limit order, I want to sell, but I only want to sell at 380. So if Monday I don't get that price, I will wait for Tuesday. I will wait for Wednesday, so on and so forth. Is this clear? Not clear?
Yeah,
Can I
have to
explain
do it
market
bit
order
practically.
or
Practically,
I
then
got
I
it.
will understand.
Yeah, Nishant, can you explain a little bit about that market order you said?
So market order will basically be whatever is the trading happening at Monday. So Monday maybe the share might be trading at 355, which means buyer and seller are ready to exchange the share at 355. So if I am ready to sell at 355, that becomes a market order. Market order is nothing but whatever is the current market price during the real time session. Now in this same example, reverse option could be I don't have any shares and I want to buy, but I want to buy only at 330 rupees. So similarly, I can place an order to buy 1 lakh shares of Happiest Mind Technology on Monday at 330 rupees. If the price reaches at 330, I will get the shares or it will get bought. If it doesn't reach 330, I will not be able to buy. So I have to wait for whenever it comes to 330. Because based on my calculation, I feel that if I buy at 330, that's a good price to buy. I don't want to buy at 360 because it looks overvalued. Understood?
Yeah,
Okay.
Nishant, please Venkat, go ahead.
No, okay, thank you. How this current price is arrived? How it so somebody is want to buy it. Always people want to buy at lower price and people want to sell at higher price. But how this price is arrived? For example, how the closing price is arrived? Example in your example 360. How that that has come? Is it because of some average or?
No average. That day trading was happening, right? Every day trading happens. So what
Okay.
you guys, if you want to learn more, right, you need to come during trading hours. I will show you. I will open Zerodha and I will show you how trading happens. So ping me during trading hours. I will start one session. We can do it on Monday if you guys want. Market opens at 9:30. So if
No.
I will check my calendar next week. This week will be, I have a lot of calls, but I can find a 15-minute slot. But it will only be 15-minute slot. So say
Evening
between,
time for your evening time, so that for
no,
us also.
only when market is open. So maybe say 9:45 to 10 India time or
Uh-huh.
whatever. So 9:45 to 10 will be 6:15 for you guys. So I will show you how it actually happens. But basically the prices are all arrived based on demand and supply. So say, as I said, right? So on Monday, generally what will happen? That is why the difference is not much between today closing and Monday opening. So today, say, as I said, 360 is the price. On Monday, there might be some guy who wants to sell 500 shares at 362. He might have got in the IPO and 362, he's still making a lot of profit, right? So he wants to sell 500 shares. He might have got 5,000 shares in the IPO. He wants to liquidate 10%. So he's putting an order for 500 shares at 362. If there is somebody else willing to buy at that price, trade will happen. Simple.
And Nishan, what is the limitation of this? I mean, the 10% what you said for Happiest Minds. This will be limited till what time period?
Means I did not understand. Elaborate the question.
The
It was
10.
a per day limit, I guess you were telling, right?
Correct, huh? So if that is the question, yes. So basically say trading will start at 9:15 and for whatever reason at 11:30 Happiest Mind reaches 396. After 11:30 you will not be able to trade Happiest Mind on Monday. Again on Tuesday trading will start.
Now, why that 11:15?
Huh?
It's not. It's there until 3:30 or something, right? You were saying about the trading hours.
Correct, but if the circuit is hit, that means you cannot
Ah,
trade in that
okay.
stock on
Oh,
that
yeah.
day anymore.
Okay. Right, I got it. The plus or minus 10%. But you said right that is only for 15 minutes.
No, that is only for FNO stocks, not for all. I don't think so. Happiest Mind is
Ah,
part of FNO. So, like for example, Vodafone is part of FNO. So,
what
Infosys
is
is
the
part of
FNO?
FNO. Futures and options.
FNO for future. Yeah.
So this 10% limit each day it will be. I mean, I got the concept of like the highest price in circuit and everything. But when will SEBI decide as to the limit can be increased or not, or is it permanent for all? Because based on the size of the company or something, wouldn't the risk change?
This keeps changing. So there are companies which have 20% upper circuit, some have 10, some have 5, some have 15. So yeah, different companies have different circuits. So they keep changing, Vaibhav, based on that.
Nishant, sometimes I observed, sometimes it will be 10%, sometimes it will be 5%. I don't know why, how it will be decided.
Yeah, so based on certain companies, that all you can read here. So
Yes, I
basically
can read, but
there
I
are
mean,
there are rules. Basically, companies which are considered very volatile, Z category, there are a lot of
the same company which is 10% yesterday, it will be 5% today, and
no,
the
no,
next
no,
day it will be.
no, no. It doesn't happen like that.
I have observed, man. So
No,
only
no.
I came up.
Give the example.
For example, future retail, it went 20% in a single day, and then the operator decided to go for 5%. I
No,
don't
no,
know how
no.
on
No, no, no. You need to give me the details because generally this is
future retail,
done
not
on a
retail.
weekly basis. So they will put the rules. And as I mentioned, right, for FNO stocks, like for example, Reliance only, I was checking, it is 10%, or Vodafone I know for very, very well. Vodafone has a 10% upper circuit. So if, let's see, what was the Friday closing for Vodafone?
There are some stocks for 20% also. Reliance can, I think, some stock will go 20% also.
Which one I know, I'm telling you, wait now. So for Vodafone, it is 11.25. So on Monday, it is upper circuit will be 11.25 plus 1.12, which will be say roughly 12.35, and lower will be 10.15. Okay, 1 rupee 10 paisa up and down. Now, if say for some reason Vodafone touches 12.35 on Monday, it will only freeze for 15 minutes because it is part of FNO. And then again from 12.35 another 10% is added. And again if it reaches that also, again it will freeze only for 15 minutes, and again from that level it will start. Got
Yeah.
it?
Yes, correct.
So same day it keeps getting unlocked. You don't need to wait for another day. Only 15 minutes there is a pause. Similarly, on downside also same thing. So actually Vodafone can go up 30% in a day or go down also 30% in a day. So this is very important to know if you are part of the market. And this should answer your question also, Ranjit, right? They are allowing, na? So here there is, they are allowing actually flexibility. But on a daily basis, they cannot change. There are certain rules. So if you can give me the exact stock and when it happened, we can do some more research.
I can
Uh,
go open future retail. I think it was a very good example.
Okay, but Ranjit, no, why no? Is it good? It's good, right? Having this kind of cap, plus or minus 10%. Do you see some disadvantage?
No, I see a disadvantage. The stock is not going up because as a being, if you are a trader, you don't want to stay in the long for long. I mean, if you want to take out your profit when the news is there, you can make money and go out, right? It will be good for something like
And
that.
also future retail is in FNO. Yeah, future retail always had 5% upper circuit, but because it is in FNO, every 15 minutes it will keep getting unlocked. So what is your question? Why are you confusing me and yourself?
It's in FNO.
Yeah, it is showing, na? Future retail FNO. It is part of FNO stock. So if it is in FNO anyways, only 15-minute rule is there.
What happened after 15 minutes? Again, it can go to any level, or again even
No,
the
same.
previous
Whatever was the next previous cap, right? Same 10% is applied. So for
from
example,
the previous cap.
no,
Yeah.
from the current one, yeah. Always your last closing, right? So say on Monday it opens, on Monday it closes at 10. Venkat, this is the last I have to go, right? I'm tired also.
Yeah,
So
sure. Yeah.
on Monday it closes at 10 rupees. As per the 10% rule, on Tuesday it can go up to 11 or 9, plus minus 10. Clear?
Yes.
Now say on Tuesday for whatever reason it hits 11. 11 rupees at 1:30 India time. So it has hit the upper freeze. So the trading will be halted for 15 minutes from 1:30 to 1:45. At 1:45 it will reopen with new freeze of 11 plus 10% of 11, which means 12.10 is the upper limit and 9.9 is the lower limit. Clear?
Yeah, it's clear. Yeah.
Now it hits 12.10 at 2:45 p.m. India time. Again, trading will be halted for 15 minutes. At 3 o'clock, again it will open with 12.10 plus 10%. So which means 13.35. And obviously in half an hour, it won't go so much. Or it can also, whatever, I don't know. Why would a company go up so much in one day? So that is how it is applied.
Okay, right. Thank you, Nisha. I understand you are coughing, and I hope you are, no, you are just cold and cough, no fever and other stuffs, right?
No, yeah. Anyways, I believe I already had it. So, anyways, I don't know. In my complex, 3-4 people have it, but yeah. So, no, I have some back pain, but that is due to
But by
stress.
the way, which area you are staying in Bangalore?
I stay near IIM Bangalore. So I am 2 kilometers
Okay.
from IIM. So I'm actually from this Happiest Mind head office. It's my house is 4 kilometers. This Happiest Mind head
Okay.
office is just next to Silkboard. From Silkboard, my house is 4-5 kilometers.
Oh, okay. That's nice. Okay, okay. But then is metro work is done that side or is
No metro this side. Metro is
okay.
only from that Indranagar to MG Road and
No, but
so
they were construction, right? From in the Silk Board to why they here yeah.
Silkboard to Vaidehi, that is the Whitefield one. That one I don't know
Sorry.
what they are doing. I have
Okay,
not
right.
seen it.
But
Yeah,
they're similar
Silkboard,
opposite side. Your side,
Silkboard
that means the
to Silkboard to
opposite.
Vaidehi and then Silkboard to Electronic City also, but Silkboard to Electronic City, I don't know what is the status. So basically,
Okay.
the plan is to make metro from Silkboard till, not from Silkboard actually, from Banshankari to KR Puram, but that is not going anywhere.
That's okay. Right, that's what my question is. Silk
So
Board to the
right now
Bansangri
you
side.
have the line which runs from Banshankari towards Janagar and then it goes to Majestic. So that line is running, which is your south to center line. But this line going towards Whitefield and all is not at all there. So it's a big mess. Anyways, I don't want to.
Okay.
Bangalore Metro is another big mess.
Okay. But right, please take care, yeah, Nishant.